Euromaxx highlights. In this edition, Danish design. Verner Panton is one of the most influential designers of the 20th century. Riding the waves. Surfing on Munich's Eisbach River is also popular in winter. Legendary chef. French chef Paul Bocuse is still going strong at 85. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and welcome. We begin this highlights edition with a young magician who's creating quite a stir here in Germany. Farid has a modern take on the conjurer's art. Like others, he has his theatre show, but he prefers to go out onto the street to baffle onlookers as he produces cars from nowhere, reads minds, and even indulges in a bit of levitation.
For this man, deception is an art form because it's his job. In Farid's latest show, Inside Magic, he lets people take shots at him with paintball guns. Then he catches the pellets in his mouth.
My greatest challenge and my goal is to allow people in the audience to be little kids again. They should be able to forget their daily worries and just completely enjoy the moment and the magic.
The 29-year-old from the city of Hagen in Western Germany goes simply by the name Farid. His surname is one thing he doesn't reveal. He learned his first magic tricks from his grandfather when he was just 6 years old. He wanted to become a magician ever since.
My
dream
of being a magician wasn't taken seriously,
and I wanted to do my father a favor, so I studied law. But I spent most of my time over with the psychology students, reading their books to educate myself. Everything is based on psychology, rhetoric, dexterity, distraction, physics, chemistry, and acting. The combination of all those skills and knowledge is what my audience sees when I perform.
Was machen wir hier in so einem Parkhaus?
Ja, wir brauchen ein Auto.
Ein Auto.
Ein Auto.
In 2009, Farid fooled celebrities like German rapper Sido on TV.
There's no car here.
Not yet. Choose a color. What color?
Black.
Schwarz.
Farid enjoys being in the spotlight, and he's not scared of his tricks being exposed.
Stop it. I can't take it.
Even if I stumbled or forgot my lines, or if someone saw how I did a trick, it's still not embarrassing. It's something else to share with the audience. And it makes you more human, even when something completely fails. It just underlines how difficult the art of illusion really is. Farid's big breakthrough came at a 2008 casting show for Germany's Best Magician. He only came in second place, but he was such an audience favorite that he was given his own TV show called Street Magic with Farid. In this scene, Farid approaches a young man who's about to withdraw some cash. He asks the confused stranger to concentrate on his PIN number in his head, but not reveal it. Then Farid starts to figure out the number on his own, using mind-reading techniques to narrow down the choices. And in the end, he comes up with the right number. The challenge on the streets is assessing the audience. You have to know what to show and how to be prepared if things change suddenly. What to do if an entire group of school pupils surrounds you all of a sudden. It has to be spontaneous. You have to pull people out of their daily lives and show them simple things right in front of their eyes that they don't understand. That was the biggest challenge.
Here in a club in the town of Gießen, Farid appears weekly in his live show called Inside Magic. His specialty is reading minds, and he practices his craft during the show.
Woran denkst du?
Here he tries to decipher a dream from a woman he picked out of the live audience.
Es gibt viele Bühnen, die warten.
There are a lot of shows coming up. There'll be a new tour of Germany and Austria and Switzerland too. I have TV appearances in France and Russia right now, which is really exciting. I was in Las Vegas really briefly, and I'm heading back there this year, so I have a lot ahead of me.
Ja, also es wartet einiges.
But no matter where he performs, Farid's goal is still the same: to turn the adults in his audience into kids again. And often he makes it look easy.
And that's the real magic, really. Make it all look easy. And I'm easy here, sitting in a design classic from Verner Panton, a Danish designer who was one of the great innovators of the 50s and 60s, partially responsible for making Scandinavian design almost a brand name in itself. We borrowed this chair and these others from a collector here in Berlin, and the Danish embassy here is also hosting an exhibition of some of Panton's best-known designs.
Pop art design for your home. The man behind the idea, Verner Panton, a trailblazer of unusual design concepts. The Danish designer became famous for his Tivoli chair in 1955. In the 1970s, he used his Pantanova series to furnish a restaurant. His flower pot lamp from 1968 still hangs in many Danish apartments today. In the same year, he designed his living tower. You can spend the whole day in it, working, reading, sleeping, sitting. Sleek Scandinavian design.
Danes can really identify with design, and they can especially identify with Panton. His joy in colors and the way he played with forms is something deeply Danish. It also shows the Danish innovative spirit. That's also very, very strong in other areas as well.
Even today, Verner Panton continues to inspire creative young designers. The Nobody chair, for example, which is made entirely of synthetic felt. Individual models are sold by design firms such as Hay and Vitra.
Experimenting with materials, with plastics and other materials. Pursuing new methods again for a new generation. Creating products and going to the limit with what's possible with the material. Consciously breaking parameters, not wanting to have what your parents had.
A top seller, the Panton chair from 1959. In recent decades, the freestanding body-shaped design has been continually improved.
Just a few years ago, a reinforced polypropylene, an inexpensive plastic, was found and used to make the chairs, and that means they can be made inexpensively the way Panton wanted to back then, a solid piece plastic chair that everybody can afford.
Many people, when they see this furniture for the first time, think it's a contemporary design. And that shows that a piece that Panton designed 50 years ago is still timeless.
Panton designed entire worlds to live in, such as in this advertisement from 1970.
The banana chairs are great.
And comfortable.
Yes, they're comfortable too, because they're upholstered. And what's this?
A reading room with a living tower. A lot of room in a limited space and incredibly practical.
Most die-hard Panton collectors don't live quite that extravagantly. Berliner Andre Bars definitely doesn't. But over the last 5 years, the colorful pieces of furniture have become his passion.
He thought about how people would be living in the future, and I think the pieces even today come across as quite futuristic. And compared to the very no-nonsense furniture we have today, they're actually quite inviting, especially just to relax in.
The accountant has 48 pieces from Verner Panton. His dream chair is 10 years older than he is. The two-level seat from 1973 cost 80,000 euros.
I saw it in person. It looked really chic, and I thought it would look quite nice in the apartment. Okay, 80,000 euros. But it's unique. There are only 3 of them. So I would be one of 3 people who can sit on them.
The exhibit at the Danish embassy includes 10 pieces of furniture that belong to André Bars. The design classics are available to all visitors to test.
Colourful, yeah? So it's nice colours and nice to sit in.
So many wonderful colors, so futuristic with metal. I'd like one.
The furniture of Verner Panton, decades old but still so up to date.
Now, surfing conjures up sunny beaches in California or maybe Hawaii, but actually you can river surf here in Europe even in winter. It definitely becomes an extreme sport in the cold, though, and is only practiced by the most dedicated wave riders. Veteran river surfer Dieter Deventer now spends more time documenting this sport with his camera. We met up with him at landlocked Bavaria's premier surf resort, right in the centre of Munich.
As long as the Eisbach keeps flowing, this wave never breaks. The river is fast-moving. The water temperature is 2 degrees Celsius and the surfers are in their element. The scene is on the southern edge of Munich's English Garden, where the Eisbach emerges behind the bridge as a powerful wave.
What's great about river surfing is that you can do it right here in the city, right around the corner.
It's nice and empty at this time of year. In the summer, you have to wait in line.
The temperature's no problem because you're in constant motion. If you feel warm, it doesn't matter if there's snow.
Surfers are the perfect motif for photographer Dieter Deventer. He too is a passionate river surfer. He's been documenting the exploits of Munich's river surfing scene for 38 years. When he takes photos, he follows his intuition and pays attention to every detail. He's always searching for new motifs.
What you're looking for are great visual moments. If you're lucky, they result in a photo of something never seen before. You also want to capture the feeling that a surfer himself has, to recognize and convey that in a photograph.
Dieter wants his pictures to give this little-known extreme sport a face. In the last 5 years, he's produced thousands of photos. Now he's chosen his favorites for a photo book called RiverSurfing. It will be the first major photo documentation of river surfing in the world. For Deventer, still photos are a change of pace from his work as an advertising filmmaker.
You hang a camera around your shoulder and go out to explore the world. You find themes you like and try to find and take pictures never seen before. But that's difficult nowadays. It's really a hobby.
Like river surfing itself, Munich is one of the places this sport developed. In the early 1970s, Dieter and his surfing pals called themselves board riders. They stood on wooden boards on the river like water skiers. The boards were tethered to the bridge pillars, but suddenly they discovered that the boards could ride the waves without a rope.
At first, we didn't know what was going on. We thought, hey, we're stuck on a pole in the water here. And then people started surfing on air mattresses and the first real surfboards. And then we left the rope at home and were really surfing.
Dieter's book includes other photographers' pictures of river surfing in Canada, on the Amazon River, in France, and in Britain.
It's the Severn Bore, a tidal river wave in England. photographed by Mark Hampage from a motorized hang glider. Fantastic photos. I got to know him relatively late. The book was almost finished, but it really enhances the book.
The members of the Bavarian river surfing scene meet at Munich's Eisbach almost every day. And their photographers often on hand too.
If you've managed, after 3 weeks, to get a great, unprecedented photo that's also in focus, it can make you pretty happy. But not as happy as surfing itself.
In the winter, Dieter Deventer leaves the surfing to his friends and indulges his second greatest passion: taking photos.
French chef Paul Bocuse is a living legend and the father of modern French cuisine. He's been at the very top of his trade for an amazing 60 years. He presides over a huge empire, and one of the culinary world's top prizes is named after him. He's just turned 85 and invited us exclusively to his original restaurant in Lyon.
He's a global star in his industry and always dressed in white, as fitting for one of the world's top chefs. The hat adds another 50 centimeters to his height. Chef of the century, Paul Bocuse. He no longer really stands at the stove. He leaves that to his staff. He may have replaced some individuals, but for the last 45 years, what has stayed the same is that his kitchen has 3 Michelin stars, unprecedented around the world.
Cooking is very easy. A good product, properly prepared and appropriately seasoned. Our food is traditional and classic. Good produce, good cuisine.
That's always been his philosophy, and you can read about it in his biography. Young Paul, nicknamed Paolo, was born into a cooking dynasty. He started cooking as a child under his grandmother's tutelage. Later, he learned from the finest chefs of the time, including top-rated Verner Panton and Eugénie Brazier, the first woman to receive 3 stars in France. Bocuse gained his first Michelin star at 32, the second and third over the next 7 years. In France, only 12 chefs got such honors at the time. His restaurant is in the north of Lyon, a colorful pilgrimage for dedicated gourmets.
Allez, bienvenue et bon appétit.
At the restaurant, he routinely makes the rounds, chatting with each person. The guests usually pull out their cameras, and the master chef gives a big smile. That's how it's been for many years. A special occasion at the City Hall in Lyon. Nearly 100 chefs from around the world, with more than 200 Michelin stars among them, honoring Paul Bocuse and what he has done for the art of cooking. The official photos are made on the stairway, images that will make history. Being a master chef wasn't always revered in public. That's why they're raising their glasses. That top chefs today are treated like superstars is in large part due to Paul Bocuse.
When I started in 1960, it wasn't the chefs who set the menu. It was the head waiters or the restaurant owner. Bocuse was one of the first who encouraged cooks to propagate their cooking.
Chef Bocuse is an icon in our industry, somebody who has continuously set the example for generations of chefs.
We've known each other for 30 years. His attitude has always been fantastic, always with open arms. He's the best ambassador France has ever had.
Since 1970, he's been taking French cuisine with him when he's on the road. It's at such a high level nearly everywhere because of him. He's had a lasting influence, and we must continue his work.
His staff calls him Monsieur Paul. The cooking crew has 22 people, including top chefs who have worked here for decades.
Christian Bouvarel has been here nearly 40 years.
How has he kept 3 Michelin stars for the last 45 years?
With good employees.
Bocuse has turned cooking into media events over the years. The successful international cooking competition, the Bocuse d'Or, is an example of this. A Bocuse trophy, money, and honors for the best up-and-coming chef in the world.
The Bocuse d'Or began 23 years ago as a fantastic idea from Chef Paul Bocuse. He's a great ambassador for French cuisine, who wanted to make sure that the cooks were up front in the limelight.
The competition is a kind of cooking Olympics, which takes place in Lyon every 2 years with participants, jurors, and fans from 24 countries. The competitors, young talent who have already made a name for themselves. The jury, top-notch chefs with the difficult task of testing and evaluating all of the dishes. This year, Danish cook Rasmus Kofoed was awarded the prized trophy. In front of the restaurant the next day, the trophy presentation. But instead of the winner or the legendary chef, the gathered media seem more interested in his 3-year-old grandson, little Paul. After all, little Paul might follow in his famous grandfather's footsteps one day.
Finally, back to the cold, but they say that if you want to delve deep into the Russian soul, then you should really visit the country in winter. With temperatures hovering around minus 20 degrees Celsius, Moscow is a chilly place to be, but there's plenty to do and some original ways to take in the sights.
The sightseeing ship Ferdinand makes its way through the ice, past modern skyscrapers and tower blocks left over from the Soviet age. The Ferdinand is one of the big tourist attractions in the Russian capital.
We can hear the ice cracking and moving apart. It's unbelievable. You can feel the deck vibrating. It's much more exciting than in summer.
I find it very romantic, simply romantic, wonderful.
Before long, the Kremlin comes into view. It's one of the city's most photographed landmarks. The fortified citadel has towered over the banks of the river since the 15th century. The complex is protected by a 3.5-meter thick outer wall. The golden domes of its 4 churches dominate the Moscow skyline. Nearby St. Basil's Cathedral is another landmark. You can rent skates on Red Square and take a turn around the most famous ice rink in the country.
It's in the middle of central Moscow, and everything's so nicely decorated.
This ice rink is just fantastic. It's great for skating, particularly with these girls here.
The Ferdinand continues its journey down the river. While the ship's passengers are tucking into a 3-course menu, the Sparrow Hills become visible on the horizon. In winter, both tourists and Muscovites come here to ski. A good 70 meters above the city center, young athletes are busy training for the next Winter Olympics, surrounded by stunning views.
It's fantastic to go skiing and see the whole of Moscow at your feet.
Moscow is such a beautiful city, and we get the chance to train in front of this scenery. Fantastic.
Art lovers can pay a visit to the Tretyakov Gallery, which features Russian art that dates from the 11th to the early 20th century. With around 140,000 works in its collection, the Tretyakov is one of the most important museums in Russia. The view from the ship's deck by night is particularly impressive. Once on dry land, visitors can party into the small hours. New bars and discos are springing up almost daily in the Russian capital. DJ Vlad works regularly in Moscow. He loves the nightlife here.
Moscow parties just can't be beaten. I've been to lots of clubs in Europe, but I've never experienced an atmosphere like this one here. Muscovites party best. The adrenaline pumps faster in Moscow clubs than anywhere else.
While the party rages on, the Ferdinand continues its rounds on the River Moskva, revealing just how much the city has to offer, even in winter when temperatures drop to as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius.
Ooh. And that's it for this edition. Just a reminder of our website at dw-world.de/English/Euromaxx if you want to find out more about the programme. Join us again soon, but for now, from myself and all the crew here in Berlin, bye-bye.